Welcome to week 3 of Beat the Champ here at Transit Lanes in Williamsville, New York. Mike Zarcone has been our champion through the first 2 shows, but today he's going to be challenged by a great lineup that features George Szczublewski, Kyle Behr, and Chris Labiak. Hi everybody, I'm Paul Peck with Hall of Fame bowler Nawojski. Mike has been fun to watch, his consistency, his accuracy, but he's going to have some challenges today, isn't he?
Yeah, that's right. He's settling into being the champ. Week 3 here is going to have some challenges, and he's got some real experience that's going to come up and challenge him today. So I was just really curious as to how he felt about that.
Well, why don't we bring Mike Zarcone in and ask him, Mike, how are you preparing for what should be a challenge here in week 3?
Well, just like I always do. I watch a little bit of it. I watch and see where their break points are, and then I play my game.
Does it matter to you that you're facing some people who have, maybe bowled on tour or have a lot of experience out there?
Hey, everybody's good in my opinion, so I just bowl my game and hopefully we win.
Very well said.
Yeah, well, his game has been good enough to win our first 2 weeks. What will happen this week? It is time to find out. We're ready to get rolling with Beat the Champ. Our first match, Kyle Behr and George Szczublewski, is coming your way next. Beat the Champ is sponsored by Latina Boulevard Foods, your favorite family in food distribution, and by the Bowling Proprietors Association of Western New York. Stop in and enjoy our sport today. That's George Szczublewski on the left, Kyle Behr on the right. They are the first 2 bowlers here trying to keep winning and challenge Mike Zarcone for weekly supremacy. And Kyle Behr will start things off here. Week number 3 of Beat the Champ. 27 years old from North Tonawanda, New York, Kyle Behr. And when you see him throw, Sue, you're going to see a lot of power.
That's
coming.
right. We're going to see a very high backswing on this young man. He's a conventional grip, but a lot of power with that backswing. He generates a lot of ball speed.
Through the first 2 weeks, we've seen our share of two-handers and the power that they can deliver with that particular style. The way Kyle throws it is sort of a hybrid between the way Mike Zarcone does it, nice and easy and gentle, and the two-handers. He's kind of an in-between there, isn't he, if he can corral that power.
Yeah, this is a lot of strain on the shoulder. I mean, he's a young man. Oop, don't want to do that. Your first.
Tough miss, open frame in the first. Well, speaking of this, and I don't necessarily know if this was the reason for it, but Kyle told us he hasn't bowled for most of the last 9 years because of injuries. Finally back and healthy with a chance to get back on the lanes. His challenger, one of the longtime Buffalo area bowling greats, and George Szczublewski, 59 years old from Niagara Falls, New York.
George is old school, as smooth as it gets. He's just, I can't say anything bad. I mean, his timing is great. Let's take a look at this. Threw it right up the back of the ball, knows what he's doing. He's another one like Mike, who knows how to make adjustments, has a plan. I guarantee you he knows what's going to happen when he watches his ball reaction, what he's going to go to next. But his form is just as fundamentally correct as it gets.
Yeah, I think, it's whether we get to that point or not, if he winds up being the one to challenge Mike Zarcone, it'll be a classic showdown of consistency, because that's what you see from a guy like George, and I'm sure he would prefer to be more consistent striking than leaving the 10-pin like he did here.
George has a lot of experience. I mean, he's made a lot of 10-pins in his life, bowled a lot of tournaments. He's bowled on the senior tour. He's bowled regionals for the senior tour, and he just has had a lot of experience with the great bowlers.
Yeah, kind of seen it all and done it all in a lot of ways, right? And that experience can sometimes be very critical in this sport.
But you're right. As the game has evolved, you see players like Kyle with just a lot of power players. It's like anything else with sports. There's a lot of youth and a lot of power out there.
And there you go. There's an example of the kind of bowler that Kyle is, where you are just blowing the pins out of the way.
I think where you see the difference is sometimes with all of this power, sometimes you'll see a few spares get lost along the wayside because they tend to make it up in strikes and strings of strikes. And lane conditions don't always dictate the ability to do that. So you really have to become a strong spare shooter too.
Much like we talk about with the two-handers, can all that power sometimes just knock some pins around that maybe normally wouldn't have been knocked around, just the sheer force of it, maybe take a pin out that'll lead you to a strike over a spare.
Mm-hmm.
And there you go. After the open frame in the first, that's 2 in a row as Kyle settles in. He's bowled a few times in his career on television, and it always takes a little while to get used to things.
High backswing, but nice straight backswing. You can see that good view of the back of him. Here we're going to see it again. Watch that arm straight through the. Does come a little bit across the front of his face, but his backswing is like perfectly straight.
That's a walk of satisfaction there.
Oh.
That's a couple in a row now that George has left that 10 pin.
Yeah, as down in as it is, the ball is deflecting when it gets to the pins. It's not driving straight through the pins, and he's leaving these flat 10s as a result of it. He's going to have to change something up.
Full-time occupation as a plant supervisor for the Olin Corporation. Current average for George about a little under 230. Bowling in 3 leagues a week, which is about the norm for most of these high-level bowlers that we get on our show. And I think it's interesting, you know, kind of asked who are some of his idols in the sport. 2 guys that you know very well, Jack Jurek and John Zerbinski, 2 of the best to all time have ever done it coming out of the city of Buffalo.
He's got good taste, but him and Jack have roomed in quite a few things, and I'm sure they play off each other, talk a lot, learned a lot from each other.
And there's a 3rd frame strike for George, or sorry, a 4th frame strike for George Szczublewski after back-to-back spares. And now Kyle working 2 in a row, gets set for his role in the 4th frame.
Yep. Leaving a little bit of an opening for George there to kind of find his way to the pocket with that open in the first frame.
All right, 4th frame for Kyle Behr. A lot of wobble, and it won't go down.
Okay.
So he'll have a spare shot here. Bowled locally at North Tonawanda High School. Did Kyle Behr. And that's a 4th frame spare for Kyle.
Just looks like another day at the office for Kyle. He's taking this quite in stride, but I'm guessing he's given this a lot of thought.
Yeah, I think, as we mentioned, it really interesting to me that he took a 9-year hiatus from the sport. Now, maybe he didn't want to. It was the injuries that dictated that. But, you know, to think that you take that length of time off of anything and have the ability to step back into it and then perform at the kind of level that gets you on this show with a chance to win says an awful lot about his determination. Well, that one was just stayed too straight and kind of cut everything in half, didn't it?
Yeah, we're going to take a look at this from the back and high backswing. You see how he really hits it at the bottom. When you see the bottom of his swing, take a look at it one more time. When he's ready to release the ball, you see that snap on there. He got that one. He caught that one and pulled it in.
Yeah, that
he
look
knew it
says
right
it
off his
all.
hand.
That's the look of only getting 5 pins and leaving yourself a very difficult spare. So that's the 2nd open frame in the first 5 for Kyle Behr. And when you're bowling against a pro like George Szczublewski, those are not the openings that you want to leave.
No, George is going to pound the pocket no matter what. He's going to figure out these 10 pins, but he is very steady.
You know, we talked about Kyle taking that time off because of injury, and
nice shot.
George himself took about 20 years off from when he was a kid until he kind of got back into the sport about 10 or 12 years ago. And for him to have picked it up and to be bowling at the level that, like you said, bowling on senior tour events and most of the high-level tournaments here in the Western New York area, it says a lot about his skills.
Another great backswing right there. One thing you see about these players, they've got very straight backswings. They get through the ball very well. Their follow-through goes over their head, and that helps them keep the ball in on the plane it needs to be on. Great shot.
That is 3 in a row for George Szczublewski. He's on a roll. We're on a roll here. First match, we'll have more of Behr versus Szczublewski next.
From a legacy of excellence comes the Phase AI. With the innovative Power Edge finish, combined with TX16 Pearl cover stock, the Phase AI provides the perfect blend of length and hook. The Phase 2 set the standard. The Phase AI takes it further. Experience the evolution of performance.
Hey, Paul, what are you doing? Hey, Sue. Hey, didn't you hear? We're bowling on MSG. I've got to practice.
No, Paul, we're not bowling on MSG. We're hosting bowling on MSG.
Oh, thank goodness, because there is no way I was going to be ready. Beat the Champ here on MSG. Soon Nawojski and I will bring you all the action. We'll see you on the lanes.
Paul, were you going to bowl in a suit?
George Szczublewski gets set for his shot in the 7th frame. While we were gone, Kyle Behr had a rough open in the 6th, but came back and got a strike in the 7th. So that's 3 open frames already in this match for Kyle Behr, and that is just not the kind of opportunities you want to give to a veteran pro like George Szczublewski.
Yeah, spare here is going to give George a 50-pin lead, and George has struggled to kick out those 10s. But he still kept the ball in play and just left an easy spare for himself every time, too. So.
Strikes and spares, right?
Goes to prove that making your spares is very important.
Yes, it does.
The difference is 50 pins in this match.
20 career 300 games for George Szczublewski, a high career series of 827. Bowled locally at Frontier High School and at Erie Community College. Kind of a Buffalo bowler through and through. And there's a nice strike for George in the 8th frame.
I believe the left lane is still hooking a little bit more when I watch George. He liked that right off his hand. Doesn't quite have the knee bend he used to have. I see him a little bit, standing a little bit straighter
Do
up
any
the
of us
line.
still have the knee bend we used to have? I know
Kyle
I don't.
should.
Kyle might, yes. Yeah, you almost feel like he's throwing it so hard. I want to say
right.
too hard.
It's not
but
giving the ball
so
a chance
hard,
to read
he's
the
not
lane.
giving a ball the chance to do any of the work.
Right. And I think he's fishing around now because his only chance is to strike, so he might as well try everything he possibly can at this point. Still behind 50 pins, and he could be behind 60 pins if George strikes on his next shot.
Yeah, so a little bit of a tough outing here for Kyle, and you know, he's a good bowler and he will be heard from again either on this show or around Western New York now that he's back and dedicated back to the sport. And there you go. That's one of his best of the day.
I'm sure he's feeling a little bit of stress. It was nice to see him throw a good shot there.
So now we go to the 9th frame for George Szczublewski, and if he can strike here, as you mentioned, that will all but do it. There it is.
Shot. Instead of going away from the pins, that one was a little bit straighter up. Again, he wanted to hit the pocket a little higher flush. Let's take a look at it again. Up the boards. Just got into the roll just a little bit sooner. Hit the pocket a little high flush. No problem with the 10 pin on that shot.
It is so much fun, and we have talked about this, and we will see it later in the show with Mike Zarcone. You can just see the wheels, the gears turning in the heads of these guys, and then they're able to take that knowledge and put it to the right arm and get the ball to do what they want it to do and what they need it to do in order to be successful.
Well, that's a great point. But here we've got a veteran who's going to know what adjustments to make to go forward to the next match. So knowing that Mike Zarcone's at the top of the list, I think we've got some pretty evenly matched opponents here.
Yeah, Chris Labiak is awaiting the winner of this one. That is going to be George Szczublewski, and Chris Labiak's an outstanding bowler, so that's going to be a heck of a battle in match number 2, and then the winner will take on Mike Zarcone as he tries to make it 3 weeks in a row. So George Szczublewski able to post up an impressive 226, and that is going to be enough for him to advance on, and we'll watch Kyle Behr finish things out. And that's a good way to put an exclamation point on it for Kyle Behr. A 10th frame strike, but it's George Szczublewski that moves on. We'll get you ready and get rolling on Szczublewski versus Labiak next. Match number 2 has Chris Labiak challenging George Szczublewski after Szczublewski comes up with the win over Kyle Behr in our first match. And these are two long-time, recognizable, high-level names in Buffalo bowling.
Absolutely. These are two great bowlers, and we're in for an excellent match.
And that is not how George Szczublewski wanted to start things.
No, I think George is trying to avoid leaving that 10 pin. He had to look for a little bit of different ball reaction here. He needed a little different of a break point, and this was far too aggressive, hooked too much for him, left a wide open split.
4-7-10 split. Oh, not close. Closer than
close.
maybe we
Threw it right
thought,
at it.
huh?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so it's an open frame with 9 pins to start things off with George Szczublewski. And if you're going to have a frame like that, have it in frame number 1.
Exactly. It's
so here
true.
comes Chris Labiak, 40 years old, from North Tonawanda, New York. And as we mentioned, Chris has been a long time and very high-level bowler around these parts.
Yep.
And we get our first two-handed bowler of the show, and that's why those guys do that.
When you take a look at Chris, he's got push away is perfect. Now he's got that ball tucked in close to him, as the two-handers do, slides into it. Gets it really, really well down the lane. He's very, very good two-hander.
Chris battled some injuries, had to give up the sport for a little while, and he was telling me he even bowled a little bit left-handed just to get back in it while his right arm was recovering, but he is back and healthy, and I think you can just see how locked in he is. And that is 2 very good shots in the first 2 frames for Chris Labiak.
I like his follow-through. We've noticed on two-handers that they've take their hand down, but his is more of a traditional follow-through. See his hand straight up in the air with his finger pointing up.
That's just him reminding everyone, I'm number 1. You know, and then in contrast, we have George, who just, traditional but consistent and solid, and the results come from that, and a good fight back from that open frame in the frame number 1.
That style never gets old. This is fundamentally perfect. Backswing even with his shoulder. Comes right through the ball. Stays with it. Watches it go through his target from the back. Straight backswing. Perfect.
Just hitting a little bit to the right of the 1 pin, which is where you want it to be.
Wow, was that good?
Oh, it sounded great.
That-
If you turned away from your TV for a moment and you just heard that, you knew it was a strike.
That said to me that George feels loose and feels comfortable where he is. Watch, yep, stepped into that one.
Looked a little
knew it
worried
was
at
good.
the beginning there, right? The look on his face was he might not have been entirely happy with it. Career 300 games for Chris Labiak and a high series of 878. And
That
again,
is a high number.
yeah. And
There's a lot of striking.
Yeah, and he has bowled at numerous tournaments and won a bunch of amateur bowling tour events here in Western New York, and just a long time, consistent, high-level bowler. And it's a spare in the third frame for Chris Labiak.
Yep, this match is close. George is 10 pins down with that open in the first, but he struck to keep it close. He can keep it going, and we will be even.
That 878 series I mentioned is the house record at Tonawanda Lanes here in Western New York, and that will be one of our host centers as we move forward throughout the season here on Beat the Champ, and that is something that Chris is highly proud of, and he should be. And that one looked good from the beginning to the end. It's a fourth frame strike for Chris Labiak. This one has all the makings of coming down to the last frame to determine who is going to take on Mike Zarcone as Zarcone goes for his third week in a row as our champion.
Great shot. I know you mentioned with Mike that you could have put the reels together and not find much difference between them, and I feel like we're looking at that with George as well.
Yeah, it'll be cool, and we'll be able to, if in fact George wins this and goes against Mike, as you will watch that, you will see just an incredible amount of consistency and a lot of similarities in their styles too.
This match is now even.
There you go. Like I said, wake me up in the 10th frame on this one. Oh, and a very little late slide of the 7-pin
Yeah, he
for
looked
George.
to me like he might have gotten that a little bit right. It came back, ended up in the perfect spot.
Yeah,
right
watch.
there, got a little bit to the right.
Watch the 7-pin. Just gets bumped enough to slide backwards.
I feel like George is getting loose and he's in his groove right now.
So Chris knows he's in a battle, but he knew that before we started.
He's up to it. Great shot.
So first 5 frames, 4 strikes and a spare for Chris Labiak, and he is bowling very well, and here's an example of it.
There's not much more you can say about that.
No, it really isn't. That's just watch it and enjoy it. Just like he is. So Chris will slide over to the left pair, to the left side of the pair.
Match
and
still even.
tee it up for the 6th frame. And the 10-pin will not go down.
No, he got that one a little bit in. It caught the oil. Made the ball go down the lane just a little bit more and hit the pocket.
And these two guys are just such savvy veterans, and I'm sure they've got a good sense of
They
how
did.
the
I'm
oil
sure
is
he-
changing, how
absolutely.
the lanes are changing.
He knew when he got that ball, where he got the ball, that was a big risk of a 10-pin.
So Chris Labiak spares in the 6th frame. We've got a great match going on. Who is going to advance to take on Mike Zarcone? We'll find out next.
The Western New York area has long been considered one of the best anywhere for the sport of bowling.
And no matter where you live, we have lanes nearby.
For top competition,
Fun with family and friends.
Great food and drink, or just a night out, we got you.
We are
The bowling proprietors.
of Western New York.
Stop in and enjoy our sport today.
12X Tech Bowling Supplies is committed to continuing the decades-long tradition of excellence established by the DeSanto family. We are the ultimate destination for customer service, experience, and product variety. We offer an extensive inventory of balls, bags, shoes, and accessories. Our unique fitting and drilling process, combined with our in-house lane, ensures a perfect fit every time. With a range of repair and maintenance services, we can help keep your gear performing at its best. Consult our team today at 1000 Highland Drive in the J. Scuddy South Plaza, conveniently located off of 390 in Henrietta.
I'm Paul Peck.
And I'm Nawojski. We want to see you out here bowling for the top spot on Beat the Champ.
So get to any of our great host centers and get the details on how you can be a part of the show and be our next winner.
And don't miss any of the action here on MSG every week.
Yeah, so check out the show next week or get out there and qualify and be our Beat the Champ winner.
We have got a good one going here between George Szczublewski and Chris Labiak. It is tight. It's going to come down to the end, and both of these guys are bowling at a high level. It's the 6th frame for George Szczublewski.
Right after that first frame open, he has been perfect through 4. Ooh, nice trip
There's another
forward
one.
for him. That's another sign of being loose, is when that 4 trips for you. Down the lane, got it to his break
That just
point.
means you're throwing it nice and easy and perfect fundamentals.
It goes hand in hand with being loose and feeling like you're lined up, feeling like you see the shot, feeling like you see the pattern really helps loosen up your swing and carry a few extra pins that you may not have otherwise.
Working 5 strikes in a row. George Szczublewski makes it 6.
Could have been a 9-pin.
Got a nice little happy slide to the right from the from George on the 9-pin for George. Isn't there a song, "Slide to the Right"? Isn't that didn't I dance to that at a wedding sometime?
Ooh, slap that one out.
Look
and
at
look back
that,
at it
wow.
again. Don't you dare stand up. Again, these two have the ultimate respect for each other, so that slap out, it was for the 9-pin, not for Chris in any way.
Ooh, that's a bit of an unusual leave for Chris, and
Yeah.
I think he's trying to figure that out himself.
I know that Mike alluded in the beginning of the show to break points and said that he watches the break points of the bowlers, and pretty much you can use the same break point. You get to that break point different depending on how you throw it, but the break point tends to be the break point for all bowlers, so that's what he meant, that he's looking at where the ball's breaking for them and he will figure out how to get there. In this case, he had sprayed the ball through the break point, might have thrown it a little hard, and that resulted in a light hit.
Doesn't matter your style, two-handed, traditional, that the break points are still the break points?
Yep, it has to do where the oil ends and the ball starts to go into the roll where the dry picks up, and how you get to that point is up to you. You use your equipment, you use your ball speed, you use how you throw it, but tend to want to get to that same point.
George does not like to sit down, as you can clearly see. He hasn't, I don't think he sat down the whole time.
No, he hasn't.
Eighth frame for Chris Labiak. And a same kind of leave on the other side.
That was just an errant shot. That lane does hook a little bit more. Had to have got that way inside of his target. So right in front of the pins, that's where it made its turn. He should have had that about 5 boards right of that when it made that turn.
All right, so he's got to spare up the 6-pin here. And that's a couple missed opportunities here in the 6th, 7th, and now 8th frames for Chris Labiak. Meanwhile, George Szczublewski is working 6 strikes in a row.
Right,
And
well
that
said.
might be the difference in this one.
Well said. I mean, George is striking, and so was Chris, and Chris seemed to have a couple errant shots in there, opening the door up for George to keep this string going.
We're going to get a re-rack here from George. Didn't like what he saw.
Well, he's figuring that a strike here is going to really put him in the driver's seat, and he's not going to risk that on a bad rack or a rack that's going to, guarantee him a 10 pin. So he was going to re-rack that and get a better rack.
8th frame.
Got it anyways.
Yep, the strike streak comes to an end at 6. As George will have to spare the 10 pin.
Was a good shot. Again,
He had that pin flying, it just sort of missed it.
The rack could have a little bit to do with it. So now we've got a match where George is up 22, but he could have really closed that out, made it 32. A little bit of an opening for Chris.
Ninth frame now for George Szczublewski. Can he hold off Chris Labiak, win his second match, and advance to the finals? And he kind of had the same issue on that 10 pin again.
Yep, in that case you could see that the ball broke late into the pocket, wrapping around that 10 pin.
So the spare pickup in the 9th frame for George Szczublewski, and now there's at least a little bit of an opening for Chris Labiak. He's going to have to throw a whole lot of strikes here to wrap this up, but the door is open.
Right, so here's this where Chris was the higher seed. He got to make the decision whether he wanted to finish first or he wanted to finish second, and he chose to finish first, post up his score, and let George come in and try to beat him. So in this case, he can close out this match with 4 strikes, make it very close.
And in contrast, when we had a chance to talk to Mike Zarcone on our last show, I don't know that he said he always does, but he said he prefers to be the one to end the match so he knows what he needs to beat. Did you ever have a standard decision in that, or did that change for you?
I think that it depends on how confident you felt on the pair, and if there was a lane you preferred over the other lane. Like in this case, one lane hooks more than the other. One might be preferable to you, so you'll want to finish on the lane. So sometimes it's about putting the pressure on somebody else. Sometimes it's strictly that you want to finish on the lane you like the most.
10th frame now for Chris Labiak, and again, if he can keep striking, he's going to keep himself in a position to win.
Great shot.
And there you go. Strike on the first ball of the 10th frame.
It's always amazing to me how our bowlers who work regular jobs don't do this for a living, but still when it comes down to these pressure situations, we see them stand up and throw strikes when all of the pressure is on them, and that's very impressive, just like he just did right now.
Yep, it's 2 minutes left in the 4th quarter, and you're down by 4 points, right? And Chris knows how to respond to that pressure. So here's Chris with his second shot of the 10th frame,
He
and
liked
another
it.
strike.
He liked it. You could tell as he threw that shot, stayed down with it. He knew it was right where he wanted it to be. Watch that. Stays down and watches it. He knows where it's going.
So it's 3 strikes in a row. If we get 4 strikes in a row, we really could come down to quite the amazing finish. Somebody said 10 minutes ago, wake me up in the 10th frame on this one. That's exactly where we are.
Yeah, we have very big possibility of a tie here, and if we do get a tie, we'll have our first tiebreaker, which is a 1 frame roll off.
So Chris needs the strike here to stay alive, and he gets it. Chris Labiak finishes strong with a 236. So George Szczublewski needs a strike and a spare to win here in the 10th frame.
That's right. The count on that fill ball forced George to have to strike on his first ball, which is what you would always desire to make your opponent do. Throw that strike.
Here we go. And
Wow.
he gets the 7-pin to fall late and gets the strike that he needs. Wow, and look at the look.
Look at
on
relief.
George knows.
Watch this ball
What
hit
did we
the
say?
pins.
You need a little luck sometimes?
He got that way right.
Wow.
That came back. That came back weak. Now any spare will win for George.
Look at that. That's fantastic. That is great. So as you said, any kind of spare wins this for George Szczublewski. So anything shy of an open frame, and he's going to advance to our finals.
Wow.
As soon as we said that, we're like, gee, George, don't make it too much harder on yourself here.
Spare is a win, a chop is a tie.
Wow. All right, here you go. Get them both, and George wins to take on Mike Zarcone. And there we go. A little more nervous than George may have preferred, but a 237 to 236 win. Szczublewski Zarcone finals next. Championship match, Mike Zarcone and George Szczublewski, and Zarcone gave me permission to call this the old guy showdown.
Oh.
56-year-old Mike Zarcone, 59-year-old George Szczublewski. How about we call it two of the best seasoned veterans to ever pick up a bowling ball in Western New York showdown.
That's better than Beat the
You
Champ
like that?
Senior Edition.
Well, I'd say it's not quite the senior edition, so.
Oh, not quite what we were expecting here.
No, not at all. And that's two matches in a row that George has opened in the first frame. Well, we don't know if he's opened yet, but has had a tough first shot.
That ball got way to the gutter. Just
Wow.
turned
so-
around very late.
So
Mike
well, you
Zarcone
got,
put the Mike Zarcone whammy on him right off the start by
maybe.
by making him go first.
So that's open frames officially in the first frame of each of the last two matches now for George. And you know what? You said it. It's the Zarcone effect a little bit. Like George knows who he's bowling against. He knows how good Mike is. He knows there's no margin for error, and that's sometimes when you make mistakes.
It might be the only place in a match like this where you have a strategy, and that strategy would be either to put your opponent on a lane they don't like, make them finish on a lane where they struggle on, because Mike has had the opportunity to watch George bowl, knows which lane George favors, so he would want to keep George off that lane. If that, I mean, I'm just saying that would probably be his strategy.
Do you think that's why, for the first time in our third show now, Mike has not chosen to go first?
It's very likely. It's either Mike wants to finish on a certain lane that he likes, or he wants to keep George off the lane that he prefers.
And again, I smile because that is the brilliance of Mike Zarcone.
Exactly.
That he's thought about all this. He's figured all this out. He's run all these scenarios in his head and said, okay, not only does it give me the best chance to win, but I want to mess as much as I can with my opponent as well. Yeah, that just amazing. And again, that is the true brilliance. He may look mild-mannered and a nice guy, and he is.
The wheels are turning.
But when Mike hits the lanes, he's a terror, man.
There's a plan.
And that's got to make George feel a lot better. Well, we want to thank our host center for Beat the Champ, Transit Lanes. You can find them online at transitlanes.net. They are just one of our many great host centers. And if you want details on how you can be a part of Beat the Champ, just stop in at any of our host centers and ask how you can be on the show. We could be seeing you here on the lanes, and if you are going to be on the lanes, you better be prepared to try to figure out how to beat Mike Zarcone. There's a good chance that he's going to be still bowling. Looking for his third consecutive week championship. And once you get Mike on a roll, man, he is hard to get off that roll. And again, George has bowled great in the first two matches. Here he hits the championship against Zarcone, and he starts doing things that he hasn't done before.
That's right. Now you've got a little bit of a late hit there. Didn't come into the pocket very strong, leaving him another 10 pin.
So he's covered the gamut here. Open, strike, spare in the first 3 frames for George Szczublewski. You know, how many times do you think in their bowling careers have these two guys looked to their left and right and saw the other one in a match?
Sure, absolutely. They've been around a long time, and they both compete in as many tournaments and competitions they can find.
I would guess it might be in triple digits the times these two guys have bowled against each other. You know, both of them have been bowling for almost 50 years for each of them at high levels, which means you're in competitions, you're in tournaments, you're in the best leagues in town because you want to test yourself. That's what makes both of these guys so good. 2 in a row for Mike Zarcone after an opening spare. I was about to say make it 3 in a row, but the 10 pin would not cooperate.
Yep, that seems to be a popular league here on our TV pair. We've seen quite a few 10 pins since we started here at Transit Lanes. Sometimes it's just the nuances of the pair.
And the spare pickup for Mike Zarcone in the 4th frame. Who's our Beat the Champ winner this week? We'll find out when you come back.
From a legacy of excellence comes the Phase AI. With the innovative Power Edge finish, combined with TX16 Pearl cover stock, the Phase AI provides the perfect blend of length and hook. The Phase 2 set the standard. The Phase AI takes it further. Experience the evolution of performance.
Hey, Paul, what are you doing?
Hey, Sue. Hey, didn't you hear? We're bowling on MSG. I've got to practice.
No, Paul, we're not bowling on MSG. We're hosting bowling on MSG.
Oh, thank goodness, because there is no way I was going to be ready. Beat the Champ here on MSG. Nawojski and I will bring you all the action. We'll see you on the lanes.
Paul, were you going to bowl in a suit?
Well, while we were gone, George Szczublewski has made this very interesting. He had strikes in the 4th and 5th frame. Mike Zarcone, a spare in the 5th and a strike in the 6th. And if George Szczublewski strikes here, we'll be tied. And we are.
And we are tied.
So it was a bit of a rough start for George. He had that open in the 1st frame and seemed to be struggling a little bit, but as good bowlers do, and particularly bowlers that have bowled a lot, they don't ever let what happened in the 1st frame affect them in the 5th or 6th frames, and they have not. And George Szczublewski, the true pro that he is, has fought his way back, and this looks like another one headed right down to the end.
George will take the lead if he can strike in this frame. Wow. He threw that with authority.
Ring around the 10 pin will prevent that from happening.
He liked that shot. Little bit of a late break. When we talk about break points, that's just a hair beyond it.
So it's a spare in the 7th for George Szczublewski. And now Mike Zarcone, who figured he was going to be in a battle, and now he officially is, has to follow up that 6th frame strike with a few more. 56 years old, from Tonawanda, New York, employed by the AP Pest Control Company, but as we have mentioned before, one of the all-time great bowlers, already a Hall of Fame bowler, 7-time Buffalo Bowler of the Year, and when you're building that Mount Rushmore somewhere, where would you put the Mount Rushmore of Buffalo bowling? Right, where would you put that? Well, wherever you put it, Mike's pretty much on it, isn't he?
Absolutely. He's really proven himself to be.
There's got to be some old, like one of those lanes on the east side that maybe doesn't exist anymore might be the spot for the Mount Rushmore, right?
That's funny that you say that. We'll have to think about that. This is a 1-pin match though, and Mike is up by 1.
Yeah, this has been a great show. We've had close matches all the way, including Szczublewski with a 1-pin victory over Chris Labiak in our last match to get here to the final. Mike Zarcone trying to make it 3 weeks in a row as our Beat the Champ winner, and another ring around the 10-pin. Muttering to himself as he tends to do when things aren't going exactly how they should go.
Well, they've changed just enough to change his entry into the pocket to start leaving 10 pins. So now he's going to have to come up with something.
And we are tied with 2 left for Zarcone, and Szczublewski headed to the 8th frame.
So we'll see how Mike's strategy works, because this is where it's going to start to come into play. I mean, he made him start, and he did open there. He's caught up. They're back to even.
Yeah, that one just died
Yeah.
about 5 feet in front of the pins.
Well, he got it into the dry too early. So on this, you will see he was too close to the gutter for too long, and that's where the dry boards are. So the ball picked up way too early, went through the nose.
And it's a good spare pickup, though, for George Szczublewski.
Well, in this case, pin count's going to make a difference for these guys. They're so close that whether you leave a 10-pin and leave 1-pin spare or 2-pin spare, you're losing pins against your opponent when you're reasonably tied. So this puts George down 2 pins going into the 9th frame.
Deep breath for George as he toes the alley for the 9th frame. And that's a good, one of the best throws we've seen over the last couple of frames for
Again,
George Szczublewski.
I've mentioned that 9th frame is an important frame because it's the one leading into the 10th frame where you have 3 shots. So posting up a strike there is forcing Mike Zarcone to throw the 1 in the 9th and also 2 in the 10th.
All right, so Mike will wrap it up from here. 9th frame now in a 2-pin match. And thankfully that 7 falls late.
Well, he could have shot George out, but he can no longer do that. Big spare for Mike here.
Oh, boy.
Why did I feel that?
Oh, my. You and I were just talking in our last break. Then I said Mike Zarcone makes every spare. He is always there when he needs that to finish off those spares. And an incredibly surprising and untimely open in the 9th frame for Mike Zarcone.
He needs all 3 of these here to force George to strike. Good shot.
There's the bounce back 10th frame
And that's
strike.
what you got to do. You got to leave it there, and you got to get up and throw the next shot. And he did a good job of that.
Yeah,
sometimes when you leave a 10-pin on a shot that you thought was good, you kind of rush the second shot, and you're still thinking about that first shot. And it's very important that you let it go. It's there, and you just have to not go until your mind is clear and ready to shoot it.
That's so much easier said than done, isn't it?
Oftentimes.
And that 7-pin will hold up for Mike Zarcone. That's not the result that he wanted. And, you know, it's almost more surprising to not see Mike make exactly what he needs to make, because we're used to that. He has won our first 2 weeks of Beat the Champ, was looking to make it 3 in a row. That is not a given anymore. Mike Zarcone with a 195, a disappointing score for him.
Well,
so now George Szczublewski with a chance to win.
he still needs to mark here, so This is Mike's strategy of putting George up there, having to make the shot to win. And that was a lucky break because that was a pressure shot that went awry.
Yeah, and again, it just completely lost all its momentum as it finally hit the pins.
I think we saw George go high on this frame, on this lane, on his last shot too. Could be changing for him, but this is the last match. This is all he needs to do is make the spare.
And the spare there, so one more. He just needs one pin to win.
Let's see if he just whips it down the middle of the lane as opposed to playing with the 2-3 board that he's been playing today.
Yeah, I mean, it couldn't be a better scenario. Just get one of them down.
Oh, he threw it back out there.
Guarantee the win, and he'll get 9 of them down, and that will be enough. A 204 to 195. George Szczublewski is our Beat the Champ winner in Week 3. We'll talk to him when we come back.
The Western New York area has long been considered one of the best anywhere for the sport of bowling.
And no matter where you live, we have lanes nearby.
For top competition,
Fun with family and friends.
Great food and drink, or just a night out, we got you.
We are
The bowling proprietors
of Western New York.
Stop in and enjoy our sport today.
12X Tech Bowling Supplies is committed to continuing the decades-long tradition of excellence established by the DeSanto family. We are the ultimate destination for customer service, experience, and product variety. We offer an extensive inventory of balls, bags, shoes, and accessories. Our unique fitting and drilling process, combined with our in-house lane, ensures a perfect fit every time. With a range of repair and maintenance services, we can help keep your gear performing at its best. Consult our team today at 1000 Highland Drive in the J. Scuddy South Plaza, conveniently located off of 390 in Henrietta.
I'm Paul Peck.
And I'm Nawojski. We want to see you out here bowling for the top spot on Beat the Champ.
So get to any of our great host centers and get the details on how you can be a part of the show and be our next winner.
And don't miss any of the action here on MSG every week.
Yeah, so check out the show next week or get out there and qualify and be our Beat the Champ winner. An epic championship match has George Szczublewski beating Mike Zarcone 204 to 195 to take the crown away from Mike. You are our Beat the Champ winner. First off, how many times do you think you have bowled against Mike in your long and successful career? And was this one any different?
I don't know how many, but I very rarely beat Mike. Mike usually gets the best of me, so it's good to beat him today.
All right, so that is why it's different today.
My question is, you were having a little bit of problem getting the 10 out in the beginning. Did you change anything, or did you keep doing what you were doing and just...
The right lane was tight in the back, so I was trying to loft the ball a little bit, and also the rack was a little tight on the right lane. So I just tried to loft a little bit, try to get the finish a little bit harder on the right lane. That's why I think sometimes you saw some of my shots get farther right on the right lane.
Right.
Gotcha.
So George Szczublewski wins. He will advance on to our championship next week's edition of Beat the Champ. George, congratulations. It's been fun watching you bowl, and there's some other good bowlers coming your way.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
George Szczublewski, our winner here on Beat the Champ.